The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
The issue of President Obama's eligibility continues to dominate the headlines. Donald Trump bringing it up left and right. A new book coming out May 18th, but already it is #1 on Amazon. At least it was the last few days. It's called Where's the Birth Certificate? The case that Barack Obama is not eligible to be president. So many questions, and we are joined right now for a very unique perspective on this issue because he's on the ground in Hawaii and he has done his own investigating. We are joined by Hawaii's only Republican state senator of Hawaii, Sam Slom. Senator Slom, welcome to Aaron Klein Investigative Radio.
Oh, thank you, Aaron. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Now, as far as you know, does President Obama have, or does he not have, a long-form original birth certificate? We know he has a certification of live birth. It's been released, but there are multiple ways to get a COLB, certification of live birth, including, as you know, even if the child is not born in the state of Hawaii. So from what you have found, does Obama have a long-form birth certificate with the hospital, signed by doctors? Does he have the long-form certificate?
Well, since I haven't seen it, since apparently only one person here, admits to seeing it, that's the former state health director, Dr. Fukino, my belief is that, in fact, it does exist, that it is there. And it's interesting to me, Aaron, how this thing keeps cropping up. Actually, the issue had subsided a great deal until our current governor, Neil Abercrombie, who had spent 20 years in the U.S. House, he got elected back in November, and in December made a statement off the cuff about, how silly this birther situation was, or the challenges, because he was there at the birth. Well, what he meant was he was here in Hawaii. He wasn't actually in the hospital room. But that reignited it, and then, of course, Donald Trump's statements the other day, and he called out Governor Abercrombie. And then, of course, Governor Abercrombie has answered back that Donald Trump is nothing more than a multiple bankrupt individual. So that's how it's gone.
Well, this is the same Neil Abercrombie, governor of Hawaii, who announced back in March last month that he was going to look into and try to find President Obama's original birth certificate. And then he failed to follow through. He said that he was going to look through the state archives. And 1 month earlier, and there has been a lot of speculation about this, so in February, Abercrombie asked for the resignation of Dr. Neil Palafox, who is a well-respected physician. He was chosen to be the new Department of Health director, in other words, the guardian of President Obama's long-form birth certificate, if it exists. He was chosen to replace Chiyomo Fukino, the Department of Health director, who claimed that she personally went through and inspected Obama's original vital birth records. So Neil Palafox was appointed, but then Abercrombie asked him to step down, to resign. And there's been speculation that perhaps the firing was somehow related to the issue of President Obama's eligibility. Have you found the reason for Neil Palafox being asked to step down by Abercrombie?
No, it did not. I did meet with Dr. Palafox prior to his scheduled confirmation hearing, and I can tell you exactly what the issues were involved because I wrote the governor about them. Mm-hmm. The issues had to do with, I think he was a very highly qualified individual. He had been on the faculty and still is at the University of Hawaii John A. Burns Medical School as a teaching faculty member. I met with him. I spoke to him for about 45 minutes. What really happened in that issue was that he was already an interim director on the job and started making waves by trying to reorganize the unruly and dysfunctional State Department of Health. Mm-hmm. And along the way, he had fired two individuals. Those two individuals, one of whom had been very controversial, had served in a number of other positions with other state government departments for a number of years, took it upon himself to release information indicating falsely that Dr. Palafox, in fact, was under federal investigation for Medicaid and Medicare fraud. I stress that was absolutely false, but it was good enough to have the governor call Dr. Palafox and have him withdraw from the position. But I talked to him even after that withdrawal to see if it had anything to do with the birth certificate. He assured me it did not. I have no reason not to believe him. So that issue is entirely separate. Now, as far as Governor Abercrombie saying that he was going to launch an investigation, to my knowledge, Aaron, he never said that. What he said was he has seen or will see the birth certificate. He never did, though, to the information that I have. He did make it sound, though, that it was so easy that he could do it. Now, our state law restricts the release of that information to either the individual or to somebody in the immediate family or to somebody that has a compelling interest. Well, one would think that the voters would have a compelling interest.
Well, here's the thing, actually, because that is the state law, but the Dr. Fucino, the former health director, the director of the Department of Health, who at the time, 2009, released a statement saying that she has seen the vital records maintained in the Hawaii Department of Health, and she can certify that Obama is a natural-born citizen. But she was just on MSNBC last week, and she basically claimed that nobody can ever get to the original birth certificate. And then somebody from the Hawaii Attorney General's office indeed certified to MSNBC that even the President of the United States cannot have his original birth certificate released or a copy of his original birth certificate. Is this accurate? Is that true, that Hawaii law does not allow somebody to make a photocopy of the original birth certificate, as far as you know?
As far as I know, yes, that is correct, other than if the person, the individual, himself or herself, both acknowledges it and authorizes it.
Well, no, the Attorney General and also Dr. Fucino told MSNBC that even the person themselves, even the President of the United States himself, he cannot have his own birth certificate released, that they don't do that anymore, or that they don't even photocopy the birth certificate.
That's true. I didn't hear the statements on MSNBC, but I do not believe that part is true.
Now, another part of the controversy here is the hospital, the birth hospital of President Obama, because there was one hospital, Kapeolani Medical Center, that in January 2009 released what was purportedly a letter by President Obama on White House stationery declaring that Kapeolani, once and for all, this place is President Obama's original birth hospital. But then there was some controversy because WorldNetDaily.com analyzed the Obama letter, found the letter as published by the hospital was actually a computer-created likeness, apparently, and since then we're trying to find out exactly where this letter is. And there were some reports that you tried to get your hands on this letter from President Obama at Kapeolani. Were you able to eventually find it?
Well, we found what anybody else can find and nothing more. My staff did that, and we were in contact with both the marketing director and the fundraising director for the hospital. Let me just give you a little bit of additional background. It's true that the letter was delivered in 2009 to the hospital because Kapeolani Children's and Women's Medical Center was celebrating its 100th anniversary. And it was supposed to be a letter from the president. It was delivered by then Congressman, now Governor Neil Abercrombie. The hospital made a big deal about it, saying that they're really proud about this, they're going to put it on display and everything else. And allegedly, it was framed and put on display in the administration office for a number of weeks. I was then told by someone who is reliable from the hospital that several people tried to steal the letter. So the current resting place is in the executive offices. It is not shown anywhere. It is not available to anywhere. But if you go online to Kapeolani's site, as my staffer did, what you'll find buried in a magazine that Kapeolani puts out, 2009, they will show you a copy, what purports to be a copy of the letter. The thing is about 4 inches high, so unless you've got excellent eyesight, you're going to have a difficulty in reading it. and determining whether it's an actual letter, whether it's a digitized copy, or whatever.
So are you able to say with certainty which hospital, as far as you have found, which hospital President Obama was born in?
Well, my belief is he was born at Kapiolani. I take a little different take on this. And in full disclosure, as I've mentioned to people before, including WorldNet Daily, I lived in the same building with President Obama when he was a teenager and when he was going to Punahou School here. It was the Punahou Circle rental apartments, and those apartments actually are about a block away from Kapiolani Hospital. I lived in that building for 17 years. I was there before him, during his time there, and after him. I worked with his grandmother, the one that he actually threw under the bus 2 days before the election, before she died. Madeline Dunham. I worked with her at Bank of Hawaii. I knew his grandfather, Stanley Dunham, who is buried in Punchbowl National Cemetery with my father. So I'm aware of that. And my particular point of view is, and why I haven't identified myself as a birther, per se, is that he probably was born there, and that the real issue is not the birth certificate, but what's on the birth certificate.
Right. So what do you think could be on the birth certificate that would lead him to hide it?
Well, it could have to do with what his name is on the birth certificate, who is actually listed as his father, the citizenship of the father. In the old days here in Hawaii, they put racial extraction of mother and father on the birth certificate. It was very extremely detailed, and I can tell you one of my sons was actually born at Kapiolani Hospital in 1966. So I'm familiar with the institution, familiar with where he lived, familiar with the school he went to and all that. And as I say, my belief is that there is a birth certificate. He was born here, but that there is information that for reasons known only to him, he doesn't want released. If it were just the birth certificate, Aaron, that would be one thing. But it's his school record.
Right.
It's employment records. It's a number of other things. And you say, you know, why would anybody, let alone the President of the United States, spend millions of dollars in legal fees to keep that hidden? So as long as that goes on, I think it's a legitimate issue. And I'm very disturbed when people, I see talking heads on TV or on radio interview, and they say, "Oh, you're just asking because it's racist. You're racist, racial oriented." No, it's not. It's something that every person running for public office, and by the way, any employee, any employer, anybody getting a driver's license, they have to produce that evidence. So, that's where we are right now, and it's not going to die. The president long ago could have released that information. It would have been over. I know the Democrat National Committee, they have something on their website which purports to be a copy of it, but they really don't have a copy of the long form.
Senator Sam Slom of Hawaii, thank you for being here on WABC Radio.
My pleasure, and we'll continue on the hunt.
Absolutely. Thank you.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.